Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Makaya. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos like these. And if you're a returning subscriber, you're more than welcome back. Today is part 2 of my application story. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend you see that one first, or else everything I'll say will not make any sense. So I had ended that part when I got back my SAT results and they were not very good. My SAT subject tests though were sort of good, so that gave me a little bit of hope. But even then, I had to rethink the schools that I was actually going to apply to. And so then what happened was I took out a lot of the schools because unfortunately, the schools that I had on my original list were known to give generous financial aid packages to international students, but they also had a very high SAT cutoff score. And so I looked at my score, I looked at their stats, and things just didn't line up. And so I became discouraged in that sense. After my mom found out that I was really talking down on myself, because my mom was my accountability partner. And so she was very helpful to me in just helping me see things clearly. And so she told me that that was just one part of the application that was not good. I still had this other part that I could still stand a chance. The fact that I had one bad score could not exclude me from competing with other people with, relatively good SAT scores. So I said that, okay, I'm just going to try and see what happens. And so I did. In November, I applied to MIT, University of Virginia, and a third school whose name escapes me at this moment. But I applied those during the early application cycle, early action, I think is what it's called. And then what happened after that was I sort of tucked everything away because I didn't want to think about the process. I had my A levels exams starting in January, and so I didn't want to think about that again. So I kind of forgot about the whole process. And then I think it was just a few weeks later, I received an email, and this was an interview request to interview with MIT. I was very excited. The interview itself was very chaotic. Maybe I'll do a story time on what the interview was like because it was crazy. But anyway, did my interview with MIT, and so I was hoping to hear back from them with some positive news. So then it was decisions day, and that was around December 15 maybe was the date. So then University of Virginia was the first one to get back to me, and then they said that my application was deferred to the regular decisions admissions cycle. And so then I had the third school and MIT left. So in no time, the third school, outrightly sent a rejection. And so I was like, okay, University of Virginia and this other school have said no. So there's really no hope for MIT. And so I sort of forgot about that until I saw a reminder email from MIT saying that decisions will be released on such and such a date. I didn't sleep that night. I was on my phone just waiting for the clock to strike. I think it was like 3:28 a.m. because of the time difference. Yeah, it was going to be 3:28 a.m. my time. So there I was, 3:27 on my laptop, just constantly refreshing the page until finally I could see it, and the words just jumped out at me and said, view decision letter. And so I clicked, and the first word I saw was congratulations. I don't even think I fully read the word. I just saw congrat, and I was screaming. That was enough to send me screaming. And so I'm there screaming in the middle of the night. Everyone gets up because they're worried as to what could be happening at this time. And so I just could not even get the words out. I just showed them my laptop, and they were screaming as well. I didn't sleep at all that night because I was so happy. And so then the very next day after I received my decision, I was encouraged to apply to more schools. And so I did. So I applied to Cornell, I applied to University of Pennsylvania, and I applied to Duke University. And I think I applied to Harvard as well, and another school that I don't remember at this time. So then I sent those applications, but then after my 15 seconds of fame were over, reality dawned on me. Just because I had gained admission to MIT didn't mean that I was actually going to attend MIT, because the determining factor would be how much funds they were willing to provide. And of course, that my happiness did not last very long, because then I found out that MIT was only offering 72% of the total cost of education. And so I just said that, all right, 28% might not seem like a lot, but then these schools, we're talking anywhere between 70,000 to 80,000 total cost of education. So 28% of that, that's a lot. And then you convert it to kwacha, that's even worse. So I just told myself that, okay, it was nice while it lasted, so forgot about that. Focused on what I had in that moment. And so then fast forward to March. No, actually, before that, I then got an interview request with University of Pennsylvania. And so I thought the interview went well. We were talking with this. She was a former UPenn student. And, she told me about Philly. She told me about different things you could do around UPenn. And so again, like I was with MIT, I was looking forward to the UPenn decision. And so I waited. March 15th was the day that all the Ivy Leagues were supposed to get back. And so I had Harvard, UPenn, and Cornell to look at. And so I wanted to start with the bad news first, because I hadn't heard anything from Harvard or Cornell. And so I decided to open Harvard first, because I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure it's a straight rejection. And so I opened, and of course it was a rejection. And so I was like, okay, whatever. Then I moved on to Cornell. Cornell, I was expecting a rejection as well, because they were very quiet. I hadn't heard anything from them. So then I opened that letter, and it was an acceptance, and I was screaming again. And so I was like, oh my goodness, let me check UPenn, let me see what they said. And I checked UPenn, and I was unfortunately waitlisted by them, but I still had Cornell. So I was very happy. So once I had those decisions in place, and I think I was also waitlisted by Duke. Yeah, so I had all the schools had gotten back in some form or the other. And so then I went to my advisor and told him my situation. So MIT had given me their financial aid package, and it was good, right? 72%, that's better than nothing. But still, the 28% was going to be a burden. But when Cornell got back with their financial aid package, all I saw was a zero, and I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I felt so blessed in that moment, because it was like, oh my goodness, this is actually becoming a reality. All my dreams are going to now come to a reality. It's going to be true. And so I was extremely grateful. I was so happy, and I was just so excited. And so then I sought advice from my college advisor. For me, it was a no brainer, because I was like, okay, you know, Cornell is offering everything. So Cornell it is, I will attend. But then my advisor said that you could try appealing to MIT for you could appeal to them to say that they should increase what they're offering. I didn't know you could do that. And so I did. I appealed, and MIT raised their financial aid offer from 72% to 90%, which was amazing. It was like more than half what the original parents' contribution was supposed to be. But then, of course, I still was like, Cornell is offering to pay everything. MIT wants us to pay a 10%. So then I was like, you know what? Worst case scenario, these are the things that go through my head. They might be morbid, they might sound morbid, but this is what helps me make major decisions like these. So I had to consider the worst case scenario. Most of that contribution was going to come from my parents, especially for the first year. But then, what if, God forbid, what if my parents were not there the next day? What was going to happen? And so I had to really think about these things. And so I finally decided that Cornell is going to be the place for me. I could not have made a better decision, because I enjoyed my time there. 4 years later, Cornell was the very best place for me to be and start my college career slash academic professional career. So yeah, so that's it for my story. But as I promised, I said that I would give some tips slash things I wish I did before. And so let's quickly get into that before we end this video. So the first tip I would say is, whatever you're doing, read as much as you can about the process, gather as much information as you can, and this would come from simple Google searches to talking to experts, as well as people who've been through the process, there is no such thing as too much information, because this process can be very daunting looking from the outside in. But once you get into it, you realize that, okay, this is actually manageable. My second tip would be, have a good support system. Establish some very good accountability partners. My support system were my parents. They kept me on my toes. They made sure I submitted my applications on time. And this goes for anyone who is doing anything, really, whatever project you're working on, or you're intending to apply to grad school. Having a support system can be the major difference. You don't want to go through this whole process alone. And third tip I will say is, treat the application process as an opportunity to sell yourself. And so for me, my discouragement was coming from the fact that I had a bad SAT score. But then I really had to sell them on the fact that I was a great fit for insert school name here, by highlighting all my major achievements while still acknowledging that I still have areas that I have to work on, but I am aware of that and I will do my best in ensuring that I succeed. And so, yeah, that's how I approach the application process. And then the last tip I will have is, be confident. The worst thing you can do is self reject. Don't be afraid, because once you're afraid, you're automatically limited in the things that you will go for and the opportunities you will take on. So be informed. That's the only way that I countered my fear. Just research and get as much information as you can, and slowly the fear will subside and you will be in a good position to take that on. Regrets I have are, I wish I retook my SATs and got a better score. At the time, I was very scared again, because I was afraid of rejection. And so I didn't want to put in too much effort just to have it go to waste, because it was very hard to determine if the whole process would work. And so, if given another chance, I would definitely retake my SATs, finances allowing, of course, because they're very expensive. I would retake my SATs and hopefully get a better score, just so I can cast my net as wide as possible. The other regret I have is not connecting with a person who had been through the process during the application process. My sole source of information was my college advisor, but I think it would have been helpful to have a student connect with, and I could ask those deep questions. I never really asked questions during my process, and that's something that I definitely regret. I only did it after I got admission. But definitely reach out to someone who's been through it, so you can get the most up-to-date information on what the experience was. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Please hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and leave a comment in the comment section if there's anything you'd like to say. With that, I will now end this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!